I confessed my love to the school Belle in public, but I did it in Spanish. She asked me what it meant, but I didn't tell her. The next day, I transferred schools. It felt thrilling to leave after showing off. We met again, surprisingly at my Spanish professor's house, and she turned out to be her daughter. I've had a crush on Willow for 2 years. She transferred to our class not long before I was about to leave. With regret, on the day I left, taking advantage of the noise on the tennis court, I boldly shouted, "Willow, te amo." It's Spanish, meaning I love you. Willow, who had just scored a point, was stunned and looked at me with a few curious glances. I quickly put away the phone I was secretly using to take pictures, pretended to be calm, and gave her a cheering gesture. Willow stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly smiled. That smile seemed to have the power to see through people, making me feel guilty. In a short while, it was time for a break. Willow put down her tennis racket and sat directly next to me, sitting on the chair. She looked at me and smiled, asking, "What did you say just now?" I nervously swallowed a few imaginary gulps of water and lied. I said, "Go for it." She looked at me suspiciously, crossing her arms, and scrutinized me. I didn't hear that. My heart tightened, and I argued, "It's the same, just that I said it in Spanish." There was a moment of silence. I glanced at her sideways. She seemed to be thinking. A trace of cunning flashed across her face, and she smiled lightly. "Sounds nice." Out of nowhere, the compliment left me confused. "Ah, en serio?" She deepened her smile, slowing her tone. "Yes, that Spanish phrase sounds nice." Thinking about the meaning of that Spanish phrase, I suddenly felt a bit awkward. I opened my mouth for a long time but couldn't utter a word. Willow, however, seemed inexplicably delighted, her smile reaching her eyes. She pointed at the court, raising an eyebrow. "George, whenever I score a point, can you cheer for me with that Spanish phrase?" "What?" I widened my eyes, feeling like my brain was smoking. Every time she scored, I would have to shout, "I love you." That wouldn't do. I still wanted to keep my dignity. Seeing me silent, she made the decision herself. That settled then. Then she ran back to the court. I stood there dumbfounded. Such a thing for the class. At this moment, I couldn't care less about the class. I just hoped she wouldn't score too many points. After all, I was timid and obedient, only daring to secretly admire her. I wouldn't dare to shout openly, even in a foreign language, contrary to my wishes. She scored points shortly after going back on the court. She even proudly waved at me, signaling me to say that special cheer, playing dead, was not an option. I had to nervously mouth the words. She seemed dissatisfied and came over during a break. With a meaningful smile, she said, "George, you haven't cheered for me yet." I was stuck, looked around, and tried to bluff my way through by saying, "Willow, tu alma," meaning your soul. Willow shook her head confidently. "Not this one, the other one." I was speechless. She didn't understand but could tell it wasn't the same, so I had to honestly say, "Willow, te amo." Only then did she leave smugly, leaving me standing there awkwardly like a statue. Willow seemed to have gained some kind of power, becoming more energetic and scoring repeatedly. I was numb from shouting "Willow, te amo." Struggling through the match's end, I grabbed my backpack and ran. But as soon as I reached the school gate, Willow caught up. She said I worked hard to cheer for her and insisted on treating me to milk tea. Then took me to the milk tea shop. Thinking I wasn't cheering but taking advantage, I quickly took out my phone and paid for the drinks. I said, "It's not right for a girl to pay." I also inserted the straw for her. She smiled and said thank you. Willow looked up at me and said, "George, we're friends now, right?" I was stunned, raised my milk teacup, and clinked it with hers. "Of course." She thought for a moment and then smiled. "How do you say male friend and female friend in Spanish?" "Male and female friend. Boyfriend and girlfriend." I took a sip of pearls and said without thinking, "Female friend is feminine. Novio. Male friend is masculine. Novio." Oh, she seemed to understand, put away her smile, and asked earnestly, "So if you're my male friend, it's SOS mi novio, and if I'm your female friend, it's so tu novio, right?" A pearl choked me, making me cough violently, almost choking to death. Our current relationship couldn't use these two words. It should be amigo, amiga. These two words are used for boyfriend and girlfriend in a romantic relationship. We're just ordinary friends. And how did she learn to conjugate the verb? Could she be a language genius? I was about to correct her when an evil thought flashed through my mind. Since she didn't understand, I might as well satisfy my inexplicable desire. So, I nodded, ignoring the loud gong in my heart. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Willow's eyebrows curve, her smiling face looking like something great had happened. I endured the awkwardness and scratched my head, smiling along. The early autumn wind howled past, bringing with it a sweet osmanthus fragrance. At the bus stop, the shadows of two-school uniforms stretched long in the twilight. I looked at the shadows, sometimes intertwining with Willow's hair, and my heart raced. I remembered the notebook in my backpack and handed it to her. I just took random notes. If you need it, take it. She took a look and saw it was full of solutions to the function problems she couldn't solve. She opened her mouth in surprise. How did you know I needed this? I said nervously. Well, as long as it's useful. She held the notebook to her chest, clutching it tightly like a treasure, and said, It's very useful. I love you for this. Overwhelmed with excitement, her habitual phrase I love you slipped out. Both of us froze and blushed instantly. That was a slip of the tongue, she hurriedly explained. Oh, I pretended to respond indifferently, revealing no emotion, but in the profile I secretly glanced at, I couldn't hide my affection. As the clouds turned orange red, my bus home arrived. Willow saw me onto the bus. I sat by the window and waved goodbye to her. She waved back. See you on Monday. Novio, see you on Monday. Boyfriend. I suppressed my racing heart, nervously not knowing where to look. Thinking she wouldn't understand, I pretended to be calm and nodded. Oh, okay. Willow seemed very happy, smiling the whole time. Actually, so was I. As the bus started moving, I couldn't contain my joy any longer and grinned broadly out of her sight. It wasn't until I realized we couldn't meet on Monday that the bus had already gone far. When I got home, I hurried to charge my phone, thinking I had to add Willow on WeChat. I needed to properly say goodbye to her. However, before I could turn it on, my mom took the phone. Leave it to charge at home. Your aunt is here to see us off. Let's go eat first. Reluctantly, I followed my mom to the restaurant. My parents have always worked abroad, and I grew up with my grandparents. My mom transferred her job back to take care of me, and everyone was happy for me. Only I was preoccupied with thoughts of Willow, eating the meal as if years had passed. Finally, the meal ended, and I wanted to get my phone back, but my mom stopped me. We have a flight at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We need to get up at 5. Go wash up and sleep. Unable to contact Willow, I was anxious and pleaded with my mom, but it was useless. I had to grudgingly obey. It wasn't until we arrived in our new city the next day that I got my phone back, only to find my WeChat account had been deactivated by my grandmother. My previous phone number was registered under my grandmother's ID, and since I was moving away, she canceled the number because she had been scammed before. She cautiously asked my aunt to log into WeChat and deactivate my account. Even my QQ account, which was linked to that number, was lost as I couldn't remember the password without the SMS verification. Everything was gone. Despairingly, I flopped onto the bed. Mom, why didn't you tell me before canceling my number? My mom looked innocent. I wasn't involved. But your grandmother said she had asked your teacher and confirmed there was nothing important on WeChat. So, she canceled it. She also said she had already said goodbye for you in your momentous at WeChat and told you to focus on your studies. I was speechless and almost in tears. I really had to thank my grandmother, hearing me complain about losing contact with friends. My mom warned me to prioritize my studies and strictly control my phone usage. Thinking about my almost reciprocated crush being crushed in its infancy, I was heartbroken. But knowing my mom's strictness, especially towards early romance, I knew resistance was futile, and I had to accept it. Later, I was busy adapting to the new school, the new teaching methods, and getting along with new classmates. I temporarily put aside the matter of contacting Willow, unable and unwilling to deal with it. When I calmed down, I realized even if this love was reciprocated, now was not the time. Not only were we mil apart, but we were also in our crucial final year of high school. Various factors suggested a temporary separation might be the best outcome. I naturally felt regret for not being able to say a proper goodbye, but, for now, that's all I could do. I could only wait until after the college entrance exams to contact her, if possible. Then, lost in thought, I sighed and muttered to myself, let's leave it to fate. After a few days of feeling down, I adjusted my mindset and focused on studying. During the spring festival, I went abroad with my mom to reunite with my dad and didn't return to my hometown. I completely lost contact with Willow and my previous friends. Half a year later, I got into my dream university and finally had the freedom to use my phone. I asked my grandmother for help and finally reconnected with my old friends. After catching up and venting about my longing, my friend mentioned Willow. What happened with you two? She went crazy trying to find you. She kept pestering me for your contact information. When I showed her your deactivated WeChat, she reluctantly believed it and called you a liar. I felt a bit guilty and very sorry. After all, in the age of the internet, losing contact without even a goodbye was inexcusable, but I was curious. We only had a brief friendship over a cup of milk tea. Did she need to look for me so desperately? Did she say why she was looking for me? No. She asked about your university choices, seemed unhappy for a while, and I almost thought you two had dated. Then she started dating a guy from another school named Juan Gabriel. She really liked him, and apparently, even had custom bracelets with his name on them. I stiffened. The words I wanted to ask about her contact information stuck in my throat. The disappointment in my heart was unmistakable, and I responded faintly, "Oh, by the way." Willow said, "If she ever gets your contact, she tell you first, don't tell her. We're not that close." Those words were probably said when she didn't have a boyfriend. Now that she has one, reconnecting has no meaning for me. After all, my feelings for her were not pure, and I didn't want to intrude on her happiness under the guise of friendship, causing myself unnecessary trouble. Since I missed my chance, I should let it go. Cutting off contact completely was the wise decision. Though my heart ached and I envied that guy named Juan Gabriel, I ultimately was just George. My friend talked about his new girlfriend and asked if I had one. Absent-mindedly, I said, "Yeah, a few." Ignoring my friend's scream on the other end, I found an excuse to hang up. Disappointed with my long-held expectations falling through, I sat on the dorm balcony in a daze. I opened my phone and ordered a few bottles of beer to mourn my lost years of secret love. Half drunk, my roommate David came back. He looked love-struck, hooking his arm around my shoulder and shaking me vigorously. George, I saw the Spanish professor's daughter today. She's really beautiful. Her figure, her looks, she should still be in the professor's office. Let me take you to see her." He couldn't stop praising her. I scoffed and brushed off his hand. No one could be more beautiful than Willow. I had never seen a girl prettier than her. Seeing I was unmoved, he noticed the beer bottles next to me. "What's wrong? Heartbroken? With whom? When?" "You've been hiding it well," he asked in rapid succession. "It was a crush." I told him about my almost successful crush. He sighed in regret. "Just missed it by a bit. If only you hadn't transferred." "Well, it's in the past. Crushes always come with regrets." Saying that, he opened a beer too. "No worries, I'll introduce you to someone else. How about the professor's daughter? She's definitely your type." I rolled my eyes and teased. "Why not introduce the principal's daughter and all the pretty, top-performing girls in our school to me too?" His eyes lit up, and he hooked me closer, patting his chest. "Sure, I'll introduce them all. Leave it to me." I snorted, not taking it seriously, thinking he was joking. I washed up and went to bed. The next evening, I went to the translation club meeting. The seniors looked at me with pity. After a few comforting words, they started praising Senior Maria in front of me. I found out David had gotten drunk again and not only spilled about my heartbreak, but also turned my drunken joke into my dating criteria, trying to find me a girlfriend in the translation club. In the end, everyone thought Senior Maria fit the bill and started matchmaking us. Senior Maria is our translation club president and our Spanish professor's niece. She has excellent grades and looks pretty, but her personality is too composed, always carrying a cool aura. Like my cousin who always criticizes me, I only respect her but feel no romantic interest. So, I immediately refused. Don't joke around. My relationship with Senior Maria is like siblings. Not what you think. I looked at Senior Maria, signaling her to agree, but she remained silent, blushing. After a few seconds of confusion, I panicked. Could it be? Seeing her silence, everyone got even more excited. Even the president agreed. "Why are you hesitating?" "Yeah, be a man." I had a headache, not knowing how to get out of this. Glaring at the drunk David, At that moment, there was a knock on the door, and the Spanish professor stood outside, smiling. "I've been listening for a while. You guys are lively." The crowd, not afraid of trouble, added fuel to the fire. "Professor, you came at the right time. George is looking for a girlfriend, and we think the president is perfect. We're matchmaking them. The president is your niece. If they get together, you'll be family." "Ha ha," the professor, amused, said. "They do fit well. I like George the most, but you can't force feelings, especially since George just had a heartbreak. Don't tease him." The professor heard everything. How embarrassing. But the uproar continued. The group was relentless, saying things like keeping it in the family, determined to pair me with Senior Maria. They were truly relentless, especially the drunk David, who, usually quick to speak, had no filter when drunk. He repeatedly chimed in. "Professor, it's not heartbreak, it's that his crush has a boyfriend now." Then he spilled my entire crush story, how I used Spanish to flirt, and how I deceitfully called someone his girlfriend. A burst of laughter erupted, my heartbeat quickened, and my hands felt awkward at my sides. Willow also seemed surprised to see me. Her expression was a mix of curiosity, surprise, and a sudden frown. We stared at each other in silence for a long time. David broke the silence, introducing me to Willow. "This is George, the guy Senior Maria likes, my friend." Willow's face darkened further. I wanted to greet her, but her stern look stopped me, and I just stared at her without speaking. The others thought I was smitten. "Oh, the president is in danger. George's soul has been stolen by Willow. He's more smitten than any of us. He seems beyond help. Hey George, wake up. Willow has a boyfriend, right?" Willow, of course, I knew she had a boyfriend, and his name was Juan Gabriel. Willow, silent for a while, nodded. "Yes, I have a boyfriend," even though I knew it. Hearing her confirm it hit me hard. The next second, she walked through the crowd to stand in front of me, looked up, and stared at me for a long time. Her intense gaze made me uneasy. She finally spoke slowly. "So, long time no see. Boyfriend? What?" The crowd erupted. I was dumbfounded, staring at her in disbelief. Everyone in the room was puzzled. Willow called George her boyfriend. What's going on? Did I hear that right? Do you know each other? Everyone's eyes were darting between Willow and me, especially when they looked at me. They were eager for answers. I snapped out of it and explained. Actually, we were high school classmates. The crowd was shocked and even more confused. High school classmates? Then why did you act like strangers just now? I didn't know how to explain. I was scared silent by Willow's strong resentment. Willow, her pretty face full of resentment, said, "Just classmates." I asked, "What else?" She smiled. "Are you sure? Don't you have anything to say to me?" Thinking of her having a boyfriend, I felt sad and forced a fake smile. "I wish you happiness." Willow's face darkened further. "Well, you're really good at pissing people off. George, weren't you the one shouting Willow, te amo? Weren't you the one saying we were novio and novia? Or should I say cónyuge?" I finally realized. Right, she's the Spanish professor's daughter. Of course, she understands Spanish. So, she understood all my nonsense back then. This is... My toes curled with embarrassment. She continued to press. "I heard you're my mom's favorite student. Tell me, what does novio and novia mean?" She was asking the obvious, but knowing I was at fault, I awkwardly reply. "Boyfriend and girlfriend. Aha, and te amo. I love you." Willow seemed satisfied. Her lips curled up, her tone softened. "Yo te amo también," which means, "I love you too." I was completely stunned, panicking, sweating, my mind buzzing. After a brief moment of clarity, I didn't understand. She had a boyfriend. Why say such confusing things to me? I thought of the guy named Juan Gabriel and asked, "But don't you have a boyfriend?" She was exasperated. "Yes, and you are. But unlike you, people maintain long-distance relationships, and you played hide and seek, impossible to find." The facts were clear, but I was still struggling. "That they said your boyfriend is called Juan Gabriel." She rubbed her forehead, took out a bracelet, and pointed at the letters engraved. "JBDLRY, spell it out yourself. Is it Juan Gabriel or George?" Even if I were slow, I knew it was George. I was thrilled, embarrassed, and in disbelief. "But if you understood, why didn't you say anything back then?" Willow sighed helplessly. "I wanted to surprise you." But it turned into a shock. It turned out that after I confessed, Willow had ordered matching bracelets, planning to confirm our relationship on Monday. But I disappeared. It almost drove her crazy. Later, someone saw the letters WG on her bracelet and spread it as Juan Gabriel. She was too lazy to explain. And so the rumor spread. The crowd pieced together the story. So Willow was the secret crush George flirted with back then. Yeah, and George was even jealous of himself. Willow even helped her cousin pursue her own boyfriend. Damn, we thought George was just like us, comforting him. And now we feel so embarrassed. David was laughing so hard he was clutching his stomach. Those poor beers you drank, they took on a burden that wasn't theirs. The professor and her friend were also laughing uncontrollably. Embarrassment was my companion tonight. I had nothing more to say. The professor took my hand, looking very satisfied. George, from now on, Willow is your responsibility. Take good care of her. Blushing, I stammered, "It's no trouble." This made everyone laugh even harder. After the laughter subsided, people remembered Senior Maria, especially Willow, who gritted her teeth. "Sister, what were you planning to do earlier?" Senior Maria brushed her hair aside and said helplessly, "I didn't say anything or plan anything. You must have misheard." Everyone chimed in. Yes, we didn't say anything neither. We know nothing." They were really good at changing sides. Senior Maria didn't seem embarrassed or upset. She looked more curious and like she was enjoying the drama, occasionally glancing our way to see if there were any new developments. She probably didn't like me that much either. She had never been in a relationship, and her classmates' teasing made her want to try it out. Someone started teasing again, telling Willow and me to kiss. I wanted to wave the and someone gave me a thumbs up. Even the professor struggled to hold back laughter. "George, you're lucky that girl probably didn't understand Spanish, or you would have caused her big trouble." I wanted to disappear from embarrassment, feeling utterly defeated. I gave up entirely. Luckily she didn't understand, or if we both liked each other but missed the chance due to bad timing, I'd regret it forever. The professor comforted, "If you missed it, it wasn't meant to be. You'll find someone better." After some more jokes, the professor, having a serious matter, quieted everyone down. She informed us her friend's book needed translating and asked if we were interested in taking on the task. It was a great opportunity to hone our skills and earn some money. Everyone enthusiastically agreed. After finalizing the work details, the professor left. The group made a few more jokes about me and Senior Maria before dispersing. I was fed up with this crazy world, having to deal with these boundaryless people. Finally, I scolded David thoroughly. He treated me to several hot pot meals as an apology and swore to quit drinking. Only then did I reluctantly forgive him. The translation club started to get busy, but in our free time, some people still shipped me and Senior Maria as a couple. Some even bet on when we would officially announce our relationship. I was speechless and tried to stop them, but it was ineffective. On the other hand, Senior Maria never responded to these rumors, so it didn't seem like she liked me. I felt relieved and stopped caring about those people. Soon, we were halfway through translating the book. The professor's friend invited us to a team-building outing on the weekend to discuss the localization issues of the book in South America. But the weather didn't cooperate, and it rained over the weekend. We decided to have a dinner party at the professor's villa instead. David, eager to see the professor's daughter again, rushed to the professor's house first. I, along with a few seniors, went to buy ingredients, so we arrived a bit late. As soon as we entered the courtyard, we heard a burst of laughter from afar. Getting closer, we heard them masking Senior Maria. She liked me. They joked that she was too reserved. "Senior, do you like George or not? Every time we see you, you're 3 meters away from him." "Exactly. If you like him, just confess boldly. A woman chasing a man is like a veil. If you miss the chance, you'll regret it." The professor and her friend were smiling and enjoying the scene. The professor's friend even encouraged Senior Maria to confess. "It's okay if you fail, you can still be friends." Senior Maria turned to the girl beside her and asked, "You have a boyfriend? Give me some advice." The girl pondered. From the back, I couldn't see her face, but there was something familiar about her gestures. Someone noticed our arrival and took the ingredients from us. David pulled me into the group. He pointed at the girl beside Senior Maria and introduced, "Look, this is the beautiful daughter of the professor I told you about. Isn't she amazing?" I turned to greet the girl. The moment she turned around, I was stunned. It was Willow. She was even more beautiful than before, with a well-defined face and long, dark hair draped over her shoulders. Every smile, Every side glance exuded an enchanting charm. I'm off. But then I realized Willow and I were already holding hands. Willow pulled me upstairs, saying she had something to give me. Avoiding the crowd's nonsense, she took a delicate velvet box from a cabinet and took out a matching couple's bracelet. Looking at me with deep emotion, she asked, "George, will you be my boyfriend?" I put on the bracelet, unable to suppress my smile, and asked, "Then can I kiss you?" She shyly nodded and closed her eyes, her lips slightly parted. My heart pounded, feeling like a fire was burning in my chest. But I suddenly wanted to tease her, so I took her hand and gave it a light peck. She opened her eyes, pouting, and was about to leave. But before she could step out of the room, I pulled her back. "Why are you mad? We haven't even started. We kissed for a long time." Then she kissed me for a long time. Feeling like she was almost out of breath, "I finally let go," she said, in a hoarse voice. "No more kissing. Let's go eat. We have plenty of time." At the dinner table, everyone clearly wasn't ready to let Willow and me off the hook. "When did you two start liking each other? Tell us who fell first," I answered quickly. I definitely fell first. I still remember it was my birthday, but I couldn't reach my parents by phone for days. After evening self-study, I was sitting alone in the classroom hallway. Willow, who had been watching from above for a while, came down and pointed at the small cartoon cake in my hand, pretending to swallow. "Can you share some with me? I'm a bit hungry." The cake was a gift from my cousin, so I gave it all to her. She broke it in half and handed the other half back to me. Sharing is something even little kids know. She made me laugh and I told her it was my birthday. She wished me happy birthday and asked what I wanted as a gift. I said I didn't need anything, just felt a bit lonely as my parents had always been away and rarely celebrated my birthday with me. A few days later, Willow gave me a painting she had made. It was a family portrait of three, with the boy in the middle surrounded by his parents, smiling happily. That picture made me envious, and I stared at it for a long time. After that, Willow often shared her newly bought small cakes with me. She might have thought I liked them, but actually, I didn't. However, I couldn't refuse them. It was through those cakes that I got to spend a little time with her. But every time she finished sharing the cake, she would leave. She kept a caring yet distant attitude. I didn't understand why she did that, but it made me develop feelings for her, and I liked her for a long time. After I finished speaking, Willow didn't seem surprised. As we walked along, she smiled and said she had known for a long time that I liked her, but perhaps she liked me even earlier. "From the time you held a funeral for your cat at the back gate of the school, I noticed you. I saw you wrap its body in your scarf. Although you didn't cry, your serious expression made me feel that you must be a very gentle beau. Actually, I always felt like I was that cat. That lonely stray cat had been taken in by me for a long time, or rather, it had accompanied my loneliness for a long time. It always made me feel warm and fuzzy. I liked holding it. It was very gentle and always responded to me kindly. So, when it died, I felt like I was burying myself, saying goodbye to a close family member. That day, I thought a lot. If living is a fact rather than an action, all we can do is experience it. I experienced its departure and was glad it didn't have to experience my death because it remained peacefully in my arms until the very end. I didn't expect Willow to notice as well. Willow said that from then on, she started paying attention to me, especially after discovering that I celebrated my birthday in the hallway. She would occasionally pretend to pass by our class to sneak a glance at me. No wonder she always appeared around me when I was feeling down, handing me a piece of abstractly broken cake. Little did I know, she had deep feelings, but you never really talked to me. You always left after breaking the cake, I said, puzzled. That's because I accidentally overheard you on the phone saying you liked me. I definitely wouldn't date early. What could I do? I could only secretly watch you. That explains why she always looked for me but never spoke. Always thought she was maintaining some strange persona. After Willow made our relationship public, some admirers of hers were still unwilling to give up and confess to her. Her school was next door, and I often went to watch the drama unfold. I was really there to watch, not to catch a cheater. Every time Willow saw me watching with a nonchalant expression, she would get puffed up with anger, thinking I didn't care about her and wasn't jealous at all. I explained that it wasn't that I didn't care, but having such a beautiful girlfriend required a strong heart. Otherwise, if I was anxious and insecure every day, how could I handle it? The last time, I couldn't stand it anymore, seeing Willow still puffed up with anger. I lifted her chin and kissed her in front of the guy confessing to her. Then I turned to the confessing boys and asked, "Do you want to keep watching?" They were indignant but left in anger. They called me a show-off. Willow also scolded me, even harder than they did, blushing and hitting my chest. From then on, the world was quiet. One weekend, when Willow and I were alone watching a movie, things got heated. She was even more enthusiastic than I was. Just when we were about to cross a line, the professor came home early from a trip to a neighboring city. Seeing the professor's face darken, Willow quickly confessed, "Mom, it was my idea." The professor snorted. "I knew it. How many times have I told you to cherish yourself? Didn't you listen?" Seeing her getting scolded pitifully, I stepped in to take the blame. "Teacher, it's my fault." The professor's expression changed, instantly becoming gentle. "I know what kind of child you are." The teacher glanced at Willow, sighed helplessly, and gave us a lecture on adult responsibilities. She even gave us a box of contraceptives, implicitly approving our future actions. I was so embarrassed I could barely lift my head. David, feeling guilty towards Senior Maria, followed her around every day to make amends. After all, he was the one who started the teasing. I often saw them eating together, shopping together, avoiding me together, which I found amusing. Even in the translation club, their desks were next to each other. David, with shifty eyes, explained, "Don't misunderstand. It's because Willow warned Senior Maria to stay away from George. So we moved seats." Everyone understood, and didn't he expose them? But it was true that Willow had warned Senior Maria to stay away from me. She was too scared to even accept a bottle of water from me. "That girl knows Santa." A single sentence expressed her helplessness. It was quite pitiful. I told Willow not to treat her cousin like that. After all, she hadn't crossed any lines. Every time, Willow would grit her teeth and say, "Just thinking about how she asked for my help to pursue you and I even gave her advice makes me angry." I was curious. "What advice did you give her?" "To send you small cakes." Luckily, she never got the chance to do it. I laughed. Not every guy likes small cakes. Besides, I only liked the ones broken abstractly. Years later, on another sunny afternoon, Willow and I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Don't get me wrong, we got married. The sunlight that had shone on our young love once again cast shadows on the blooming flowers of our love. I, George, could finally give Willow a boda, which is Spanish for wedding, still the same to people, this time holding hands opally. As the breeze blew, the two golden figures stayed close together, from curiosity to care, to falling in love, to romance, and finally to marriage. It was all step by step, facing the light. What comes next is holding hands and growing old together. Willow's side story. In the second year of high school, I originally wanted to transfer to my mom's place, but I decided against it. After all, this school was pretty good. Mainly, I liked eating those cartoon small cakes. But then, well, cartoon small cakes. I probably never want to eat them again in this lifetime. Sigh. He left in such a hurry. He must have had some unspeakable reason. I couldn't help but ask his former friends. They said George's first choice was S University. All right, then I'll aim for C University, right next to it. We're bound to meet again if we're so close, right? I guessed he would study Spanish at S University, given how good he was at it. At least "that I love you" he said sounded really nice. My mom happened to work at S University. As soon as school started, I asked her if there was a student named George. She said there was. I was overjoyed and practiced long time no see over and over in the air. Heh, I found him. It's George. It's my boda.
Everyone thought I was Willow's simp. Some even had the nerve to ask me right to my face, "What do you think about simps?" I replied, 2 words, one horizontal, one vertical. Stand tall, and there's still hope. Kneel down, and you're doomed. While everyone thought I was just talking big, I sold my morality for 50 million. From that moment on, I gained 50 million, and lost the title of simp, all because I went wild in front of Willow. I went wild at school, I went wild outside, I went wild online, I went wild like no one could stop me, and earned myself the title of Mad Dog. Chapter 01. Just because she didn't like the flavor of the milk tea, Willow smashed it right into my face in front of the entire class, and ordered me to go buy her another one. Her treating me like this didn't surprise me at all. Back in the day, I would have just swallowed my pride and taken it. Willow is my stepmother's daughter. She's 2 months younger than me. When my dad married her mom, he told me, "She's your little sister. She never had a father growing up. It's pitiful." As her older brother, you should let her win. Take care of her. Protect her. I asked why. Isn't there supposed to be gender equality? But he shut the topic down in a commanding tone. Frowning, he said, why are you asking so many questions? As a man, you should be the one protecting girls, giving way to them. Even if there's gender equality, we men should be more magnanimous. Got it? I was morally blackmailed. So from high school on, I let Willow get her way, but she kept pushing further. And even forbade me from publicly acknowledging we were related at school. And yet, I still had to follow Dad's orders and bring her snacks, clothes, whatever. Over time, the entire school began spreading rumors that I was Willow's simp. I tolerated her for 2 years. But today, I didn't feel like putting up with it anymore. I picked up the milk tea and walked toward her. The girls around Willow chuckled and mocked me. Such a good little boy, he knows to pick up the trash. Willow looked at me with utter contempt. But the next second, I raised my hand with all my strength and smashed the milk tea straight onto her head. I cursed. Fuck you. Chapter 02. Don't blame me for being this ruthless. Just 3 days ago, a mysterious man approached me and said, I'll give you 50 million. Sell me the best thing you've got. I instinctively clutched my kidney in fear. He burst out laughing. Relax. I don't want your organs. I want your morality. And in that moment, I understood. No wonder I put up with Willow's crap for so long. Turns out, the best thing I had wasn't my kidney. It was my morality. Under my gaze full of, is this really happening to me? The man handed me a card. I checked. Holy shit. It really had 50 million on it. Riding the bus home in a euphoric daze of sudden wealth. I didn't get up to offer my seat to an elderly lady for the first time in my life. Instead, I rolled my eyes and said, oh come on, ma'am. You just chased the bus like an Olympic sprinter. And now you expect me to give up my seat? As her face turned a thunderous shade of gray, I slowly realized, I really had no morals anymore. But damn, it felt good. Chapter 03. I'm not that strong. But I still managed to slam the entire milk tea right down on her head, completely destroying her overdone makeup and upper-class wannabe outfit. Not at all what a student should look like. The loud splat echoed like a comet smashing into the earth, leaving Willow totally dazed on the spot. After a moment, she finally let out a sharp scream. Her shocked expression turned into fury as she shouted, George, how dare you? I chuckled. Why wouldn't I dare? I sneered. Willow, even stepping over the line should have a limit. I tolerated you all this time out of respect for my dad and your mom. Did you really think I was easy to mess with? Willow, wiping crushed ice and milk tea off her face, was so furious her chest was heaving. She bit her lip and threatened. You want me to tell your dad? I scoffed. What are you, 5? Still tattling? How childish. And besides that, do you even have any other tricks to threaten me with? She was speechless. I went on. Drop it, Willow. I didn't put up with you because I owed you anything. I was just shackled by some ridiculous moral values. That's all. Got it? Not just her. Even the onlooking classmates were stunned. I smiled and walked away with calm grace, as if nothing had happened. But I smiled too soon. That afternoon, I got cornered in the bathroom by a few of Willow's delinquent admirers. Chapter 04. The moment I stepped out of the stall, a bucket of ice-cold water was dumped right over my head. In November weather, it pierced through my bones and numbed my soul. Oddly enough, the rage made me calm. I just stared at them with a blank expression. The one leading the charge shouted, What the fuck are you looking at? You dared to bully a girl. Apologize to her, now. I had been hassled plenty of times before by Willow's simps. Way worse stuff than this, but I had always kept the peace, never fought back, which only made them think I was easy prey. I rolled my wrists a couple times, looked at their cocky faces, and then, in the next second, I grabbed both of them by the neck and slammed their heads into the sink under running water. Aha! They flailed like 2 scrawny chickens. But no matter how hard they struggled, they couldn't break free. I didn't hold back one bit. Not until their legs turned to jelly and they collapsed to the floor. When I walked out of the bathroom, I was smiling, wearing the clean school uniforms I had stripped off their bodies, my own soaked clothes. I had graciously left those on them. Before I left, I even gave them a friendly reminder. Make sure to wash those clothes clean and return them tomorrow. Otherwise, next time, you won't be drinking sink water. Got it? Chapter 05. Those 2 thugs didn't bother me for the rest of the day, but what I didn't expect was for Willow to actually come looking for me. She's in the class next door. I was busy doing homework when she knocked on the edge of my desk. I frowned. What do you want? Willow tossed a fat stack of homework onto my desk, chin held high, and said smugly, Finish it by today. It's due tomorrow. Her tone was so entitled, like she wasn't asking a favor, but offering me the privilege of pleasing her. That was just her usual way of doing things. She always treated me like a servant. Getting me to do her homework had practically become my responsibility. But today, I stared at her blankly and said, "Do it yourself." She froze, as if she hadn't expected me to refuse, hugging her papers. She eyed me suspiciously and asked, "George, did you take the wrong meds today?" The class bell rang just then. While packing up my stuff, I said, "From now on, you're doing your own homework." But Willow just frowned. Unbothered and defiant like she had nothing to lose, she snapped, "Makoto's taking me to a movie. You have to finish it for me." What the actual? I had rejection right on the tip of my tongue. But then I suddenly smiled. I said, "All right," took her homework, stuffed it into my bag, and before leaving, added cheerfully, "Since you're going on a date, I'll go ahead and send the driver away. Our family has a driver." My dad hired him to drive both me and Willow to school, but Willow always found ways to take the car alone, leaving me to squeeze onto the bus like a peasant. Without another word, I slung my bag over my shoulder and bolted. "George!" Willow's furious voice exploded behind me. Chapter 06. When I got home, my dad was sitting there spacing out, cigarette in hand. I tossed down my backpack and walked over. "Dad, is Aunt Lou not back yet?" "No." He shook his head, then glanced past me and asked, "Where's Willow? Why didn't she come home with you?" I sat at the dinner table, face blank. "She went on a date with some delinquent named Makoto." My dad looked utterly shocked. After all, I used to help Willow cover up everything. Neither of them ever had a clue. I wasn't in the mood to chat. I went to wash my hands, ready to eat, but my dad stopped me. "What's the rush?" "Wait." He pulled out his phone and started calling Willow and Aunt Lou, but after several unanswered calls, his face turned darker and darker. Honestly, even if someone did pick up, it wouldn't make much difference. In this house, my dad had little to no authority. In Aunt Lou's eyes, compared to her ex-husband, my dad was just a worthless cook, good for nothing except making a few dishes. Even though she never worked and relied entirely on my dad's paycheck and savings for daily expenses, she still believed being with him meant she was suffering. If she thought that, Willow certainly didn't see him as anyone worth respecting. That's why my dad only dared to talk tough with me. No one else listened to him anyway. I stared at him emotionlessly. "So, can I eat now?" He stubbed out his cigarette and muttered impatiently, "If you're hungry, go ahead and eat. Just leave the rest in the kitchen and keep it warm. I've got a headache. Gonna lie down." He pinched the bridge of his nose, sighed, and walked into his room. I devoured the food in minutes, then looked at the feast on the table, barely touched, thought for a couple of seconds, then picked up the dishes, and walked toward the trash can. Chapter 07. Willow came home at 11 o'clock at night. She tiptoed into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and found nothing to eat. Instantly furious, she called out my dad's name directly, saying, "Pablo." I yawned, furrowed my brows, and walked out, cutting her off. "What are you yelling for? It's the middle of the night. Are you trying to summon spirits?" She glared at me, clearly irritated. "Where's the food your dad made? Why is there nothing in the kitchen?" I gave a light "oh" and answered flatly, "He cooked." She asked, "Then where's the food?" I said, "In the trash." Willow looked at me in disbelief. She opened the trash can and sure enough, everything had been dumped inside. She pointed at the trash, her face turning red. "You threw it away?" "Yeah," I replied. "Why?" I shrugged. "You didn't come back for dinner. Whose fault is that? You think this is a home or a restaurant?" I stayed calm as I took a carton of milk from the fridge and put it in the microwave. While waiting, I enjoyed the look on Willow's face as if she'd just swallowed a fly. Willow burst into a furious rant. "Disgusting incel. Will you die if you're not being a jerk? I haven't eaten all day and you actually threw out dinner." The next second, I slapped a sponge soaked in dish soap right over her mouth. "What are you doing?" she mumbled, trying to talk. I smiled and said, "Your mouth's too filthy. I'm cleaning it for you." With her furious expression behind me, I slowly strolled back to my room, holding the heated milk. Willow yanked off the sponge and while scrubbing her mouth, shot me a death glare and yelled, "George, how dare you treat me like this?" Just as I reached my room door, I turned slightly and smiled lazily. "Oh, what can I say, if it's that serious? Call the cops." Chapter 08. Willow was so angry she didn't sleep a wink that night. The next morning, she sat at the table with massive dark circles under her eyes and a scowl on her face. She complained, "Fried eggs, didn't I say I don't eat eggs?" She tossed her chopsticks down with a picky face and sulked in her seat. My dad frowned but said nothing. I walked over to the table, slapped the homework Willow gave me right in front of her, and said, "Can't you do this yourself? Do you think my dad is your servant?" She met my cold gaze and snapped back, "What? Did you swallow gunpowder this morning? I shrugged again. Sure did, so don't provoke me, or I'll blow you up. Willow was speechless. Seeing the time was getting late, she stuffed her homework into her backpack and rushed out, trying to fight me for the driver. What a joke. I've got 50 million in the bank now. I can totally afford a ride. Before I left, I looked at my dad's troubled face and teased. If I'm not wrong, Auntie Lou didn't come home last night, did she? My dad froze. Yeah. Seeing my gloating expression, he frowned and tried to defend her. What do you know, kid? She called me last night, said she was getting her hair done. It was too late and dangerous to get a ride, so she stayed out. She even sent me a hotel video, nothing suspicious. I chuckled. Where's the video? Honestly, I feel like my dad lives in a fantasy world. He believes everything Lou says. Reluctantly, he handed me his phone. I glanced at the video. It showed a full scan of the hotel room. She was indeed alone. But, in the corner of the shoe cabinet, clearly, there were 2 pairs of shoes. Chapter 09. After arriving at the classroom, everyone started handing in their homework. I was in charge of collecting the English assignments. A few girls in the class looked at me with pitiful eyes and said, George, I wasn't feeling well last night and forgot to do the homework. Can you talk to the teacher for us? Playing weak and pretending to be pitiful, these girls had used that trick plenty of times before. I simply said, oh. Then I nodded and walked past them without stopping. But after the first period ended, the English teacher called them into the office. Willow was called in too. About 5 minutes later, one of the girls came back and, with a smirk, said, the teacher wants you in the office too. The office atmosphere was silent and tense. Both the physics teacher and English teacher looked visibly pissed off. Those girls stood in front of the English teacher's desk with their heads down, wiping away tears as they got scolded. Willow, looking defiant, pointed at me as I walked in and said, Teacher, he's the one who wrote it. The physics teacher, who's always been strict, threw a notebook in front of me and asked coldly, You wrote this? On the blank homework page, in bold black ink, 2 giant words sprawled across it. Asshole. The physics teacher's face turned green with rage. Willow didn't look much better. She had probably already gotten reamed out. At that moment, I went through all the miserable memories in my life just to keep myself from laughing out loud. Chapter 10. The room was still dead silent. I stared at the physics teacher's balding head with a straight face and said, I didn't write it. Just as I finished, Willow pointed at me and shouted, He's lying. I frowned. I'm lying. Willow, this is your homework. Why would I scribble something on it for no reason? Willow froze for a second, clearly caught off guard. She opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. That's right, no comeback. If she kept pushing, it'd only expose how she used to ask me to do her homework. I curled my lips into a faint smile and turned to the physics teacher with a sincere look and earnest tone. Teacher, she didn't do her own homework and now she's trying to pin it on me. You're wise and fair. I'm sure you won't be fooled by her, right? The physics teacher had decades of experience. He looked at me, then at Willow, who was angry, silent, and clearly cornered. It wasn't hard to piece together the truth. He placed his hand on the notebook and said, You can go back to class. Got it, I replied cheerfully. As I walked out the door, I heard him roar behind me. Willow, bring your guardian here tomorrow. At that, I instinctively raised my brows. Not long after I returned to class, Willow came stomping back, fuming, homework in hand. She slammed it on my desk and snapped. George, are you out of your mind? Being the school's so-called goddess, the moment she appeared, students around us immediately gathered. I stroked my chin and said, Out of my mind? Yep. Willow was stunned. She bit her lip and hissed. Fine, just wait. You're so dead. As soon as she finished her tough talk and turned to leave, I suddenly stood up, grabbed her, and forced her down into the chair in front of my desk. Towering over her, I stared her down. Everything happened so fast the others barely reacted. They only saw me pin Willow between the desk and myself. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The whole class exploded into cheers and whistles, but in the middle of all that noise, I leaned in and said in a low, cold voice, Don't wait. If you've got a threat to make, just make it now. Willow froze. I let her go and warned in a chilling tone. If you want to call someone to deal with me, do it now. But let me say this first. Crazy people aren't illegal. If you're not afraid of getting burned, go ahead and light the fuse. Chapter 11. Willow's simp finally stopped simping. This news spread through the whole school like wildfire. In the afternoon, I went to get my school jacket back from the group of punks from yesterday. Maybe it was because I'd been acting too unhinged lately. When they saw me, they flinched a little and didn't try to mess with me. As soon as the final bell rang, Willow grabbed her backpack and rushed out of the classroom. I strolled slowly to the school gate, and sure enough, she had already taken the driver. I rolled my eyes, raised my hand, and flagged down a taxi. To Blue Sky Realty, I said. Blue Sky Realty was the largest real estate agency in the city. When I stepped into the lobby, a receptionist walked over and asked, "Hello, are you here to meet someone?" "No," I replied, shaking my head. "I'm here to buy a house." The receptionist froze for a moment and asked suspiciously, "Are you of legal age?" I pulled out my ID and said, "I want to buy a property in the Violet Garden neighborhood." Before coming here, I'd gone to the bank next door to double check. The $50 million in my account was still sitting there, untouched. To avoid anything unexpected, I figured it was better to turn that money into a physical asset ASAP. The receptionist quickly made a call, and soon an agent came out with a stack of documents and started explaining the details of Violet Garden to me. They even took me to see a few units. Violet Garden was known for its great environment. It was a mid to high-end neighborhood. $5 million would get you a decent floor in a nice building. Plus, it was already built and move-in ready. I knew about this place because I'd heard my dad and stepmother talk about it once. They said that once they'd saved enough, they wanted to buy a place here. Honestly, the past few years had been suffocating. Stepmother Lou was settled in the southern part of the city. When she married my dad, she made it clear, if he wanted to marry her, he'd have to sell the old family house and move here to start fresh. But the housing prices in the south were insanely high. My dad didn't have the savings to buy property in this area. So we ended up living in the house left behind by Lou's ex-husband. That's why, even though my dad handed over every paycheck and tens of thousands in savings every month, every time they fought, Lou would still call him a useless freeloader for living in her ex's place. So yeah, owning a home here, that was my dad's ultimate goal all these years, the fire that kept him going. After I finished the tour, I quickly agreed with the agent to come back on the weekend to sign the contract. By the time I got home, it was already 6 in the evening. I opened the door and immediately heard a heated argument breaking out inside. Chapter 12. I changed shoes and walked into the house without any expression. I glanced around casually and saw my stepmother, caked in heavy makeup, leaning against the sofa with an impatient look on her face. My father sat sideways, puffing gloomily on a cigarette, his expression full of worry. Willow was sitting next to them, scrolling through her phone like none of it concerned her. When she saw me come in, she rolled her eyes at me with a sneer. Stepmother frowned and snapped at my dad. "All you ever do is smoke. Puff, puff, puff. One day it's gonna kill you. You barely make any money, but your bad habits keep growing. Like father, like son, both rotten. Marrying you is the worst mistake I ever made." My dad gritted his teeth and said, "What's the point of blaming my son? This has nothing to do with him. And Willow never tells me anything about what's going on at school. I have no clue what she's dealing with. If I could actually control her, none of this would have happened." My stepmother shot back. "Who else should I blame, if not your son?" She looked up and, out of the corner of her eye, spotted me. In a cold voice, she said, "So you finally came home." I dropped my backpack and replied coolly, "Yeah, what now?" She snorted and snapped. "What now? You tell me." "Because of you. Willow got in trouble and the school asked to see a parent. The teacher told me to come in tomorrow. Do you know whose reputation you're dragging through the mud?" I let out a laugh and said, "Not mine, that's for sure. Willow doesn't even allow me to say I'm her brother at school. So what's this got to do with me?" She barked. "Willow told me everything. If you just admitted it was your handwriting back then, none of this would have happened." I smirked. "And if I had admitted it, then the one being called in would be my dad instead." She bit her lip and hissed. "It was you who wrote it," I replied casually. "Sure it was. So what? Call the cops and have me arrested then." I stared her down, grinning with a devil-may-care attitude, backing her into a corner with every word. Her brows furrowed deep, and she looked at me, surprised. I knew exactly why. She's always been the type to nag and complain around the house. It wasn't the first time. In the past, both my dad and I would just quietly put up with it. But like today, pushing back at her like this never happened before. Her chest heaved furiously. Realizing she couldn't out-argue me, she turned to glare at my dad and yelled, "Look at the wonderful son you raised." My dad stubbed out his cigarette, looked at me thoughtfully, and said, "Well, George does have a point." Stepmother's face twisted into hysteria. She shot upright and screamed, "That's your response? That's how you're handling this?" She pointed at my dad and shouted, "What do you think I married you for? I've slaved over this house for years, raised your child, suffered through everything with you, and what do I get? All you two ever do is piss me off. I'm done. I can't stay in this house another second." With that, she stood up, grabbed her handbag, marched to the door, and gave me a hard shove. "When you finally realize your mistake, maybe I'll come back." Then, slam, the door shut with a bang. Chapter 13. The room fell silent again. My dad sat there rubbing his forehead, sighing non-stop. Even Willow stopped scrolling through her social media. She stood up and gave us both a cold side eye. Jinxes, she spat. That was her go-to insult for me and my dad. Honestly, the story between her mom and my dad is complicated. They were childhood sweethearts from the same village, but Lou's mom ditched my dad to chase a rich man. Later on, both of them got married. My mom passed away early, and my dad raised me alone, played both mother and father for years. Meanwhile, Willow's dad got his mistress pregnant with a son and then divorced her mom. Years later, Lou and my dad reunited and started a new family together. Because of all that, Willow always believed her misfortunes were because of this sexist world that only favored men. In the past, we just let it slide when she said stuff like that, but after the way her mother acted today, I'd had enough. The last bit of patience in me snapped. I looked up coldly and said, "What did you just say?" Willow hadn't realized she crossed a line yet. She snorted and sneered. I said, "Both of you, father and son, are a pair of jinxes. You're cursed. He's cursed. A useless freeloader like you should be grateful my mom even puts up with you. If it weren't for her, you two would have been sleeping on the streets. You've got no right to argue with her. And now you've even pissed her off so bad she left." She kept going, getting more worked up by the second. My dad's frown deepened, but when he opened his mouth to speak, nothing came out. I nodded silently and walked calmly into the kitchen. When I came back out, I was holding a kitchen knife. The blade gleamed, silver and sharp. I looked at Willow and said, "Come on, repeat what you just said." Willow refused to speak any further. Chapter 14. I got up in the middle of the night for a drink of water. My dad's bedroom door was slightly ajar, and I heard movement from inside. Still awake, I walked over without the slightest concern for privacy. My dad was on the phone, trying to call my stepmother. He'd tried several times, but she didn't pick up. Eventually, her phone went straight to voicemail, switched off. After he shut the door, I stood there thinking for 2 seconds. Then I went back to my room and called the real estate agent. He hadn't gone to bed yet. I got straight to the point. I changed my mind. I'm ready to sign the contract tomorrow afternoon. The next day, my stepmother came to school. When she saw me, she pretended I didn't exist. Not only that, I noticed something subtle. She'd changed outfits. She hadn't come home all night. Yet somehow, she was wearing different clothes today. After school, I got into the real estate agent's car and went to the office. The signing process went smoothly. Since I was still a student, they even offered me a great discount. After buying the place, I had the agent take me back to check out the unit again. I made a list of furniture and essentials, then asked him to help buy the rest for me. Once everything was finally settled, he invited me out for a meal. And guess where? The hotel where my stepmother had stayed. Over dinner, the agent sighed. "You're really something. So young and already this capable. The future's bright for you." I nodded with a polite smile. But my eyes never left the hotel entrance. Just as we were finishing up, I finally saw that all too familiar figure appear. At that moment, I turned to the agent with sudden warmth in my voice. "There's something I need your help with." The agent looked completely confused. Chapter 15. I told the agent that buying the house had been my parents' idea, and that they were currently at the hotel, waiting for him to come by. The agent flashed a charming smile and asked, "Which room?" I replied, "Oh, I forgot. Maybe we can ask the front desk." So I had him take out his business card, and I pulled out a set of pre-prepared documents. After a bit of persuasion and some fancy wording, the front desk finally gave in, pulled out the master key card, and was about to take us up. I stopped her. "No rush. It's not time yet." She looked confused. I stepped aside and took out my phone to start making calls. "Uncle." "Yeah. It's George. My parents wanted to treat everyone to a meal at TX Hotel." "Yup. Right now. Come quickly." "Auntie, my dad got the stuff you asked him to help buy. They want to see you at TX Hotel now." "Great, Aunt 6. The matter about my cousin going to high school is settled. My parents are treating the whole family. The teacher is right here at the TX Hotel." "Yes. Yes. Bring everyone." When I finished, I let out a long breath. These were all my stepmother's relatives. Their numbers were labeled clearly in the family WeChat group. I picked out a few who were always active in the group and called them one by one. Most of them lived in the city and arrived quickly after getting the call. Soon, more than a dozen people surrounded me. "Didn't you say your parents were looking for us?" "Yeah. Where are they?" I gave them a warm smile and said, "They're waiting in their room. Come with me." So I returned, now with a dozen relatives trailing behind me. The front desk and the real estate agent were both shocked, but with so many family members around, they didn't doubt my story one bit. The front desk took the key card and led us up to the 3rd floor. Stopping outside a room, I stood back in the 2nd row of the group and quietly opened the live stream app on my phone. Beep beep. The key card swiped. Click. The door unlocked. Chapter 16. Great Aunt 6 charged ahead. My eldest grandson's schooling is urgent. Let me go in first. She lifted her chin proudly as she marched in and shouted, Sandra, Sandra, where are you? The rest of the relatives followed close behind, swarming into the room. We weren't exactly quiet, but even with all that noise, we couldn't drown out the unmistakable sounds coming from the bedroom. Crying and laughing mixed together in a strange rhythm. Every single person in the room heard it. At first, no one suspected anything. Only the agent frowned. Then his eyes lit up. He figured it out. Hearing the sounds, Great Aunt Six strode straight to the bedroom, her bony hand gripping the doorknob. The agent rushed forward and tried to stop her. Hold on, wait, too late. With one frantic twist, Great Aunt Six flung open the bedroom door, and the scene inside, let's just say it burned itself into everyone's retinas, and into the lens of my phone. Two stark naked bodies tangled together, clearly mid-act, frozen, exposed. 3 seconds later, the room erupted into screams. My stepmother screamed from inside. Great Aunt Six screamed from outside. If you didn't know any better, you'd think she was the one caught cheating. Meanwhile, I calmly raised my phone higher. Live stream still running. The viewer count had suddenly shot up to several thousand. I declared loudly and clearly, ladies and gents, I'm currently catching my stepmother in the act. If you're enjoying the show, hit follow and send a little gift. Everyone was speechless. Chapter 17. As the room erupted in chaos, my stepmother finally snapped back to her senses. She yanked the bedsheet around herself in a flash, while her lover scrambled to pull on his pants and shirt, shouting furiously as he tried to shove us out of the room. Who the hell let you in? Get out, now. But there was no way I was leaving just like that. I propped up my phone to make sure the scene was recorded clearly. Then, without hesitation, I roared and slammed a kick straight into that man's groin. His face twisted in pain. He collapsed to the floor and started writhing in agony. Right after that, I leapt onto the bed and grabbed the bedsheet, trying to rip it away so my stepmother would be fully exposed in front of everyone. You were cheating on my dad, I shouted. She tried to fight back, but I kept smacking her hard across the face as we wrestled for the sheet. Her face flushed bright red. She screamed hysterically. Are you insane? Get out now. I snapped back. I'm not going anywhere. Today, I'm teaching you a lesson for my dad. I wasn't holding back. She struggled to keep the sheet wrapped around herself while dodging my slaps. But she was no match for me. She was quickly covered in bruises and scratches. The shocked relatives finally rushed over to pull me away. But in the chaos, I twisted free, and their hands and feet ended up landing on her too. For a moment, it was total mayhem. The hotel room turned into an all-out war zone. The front desk staff finally came to their senses and called the police. 15 minutes later, we were all at the police station. My stepmother looked like she'd been mauled, covered in bruises, barely dressed, clinging pitifully to her lover's arms. She sobbed as she buried herself in his chest, then turned to glare at me with a look as dark and stormy as a brewing hurricane. Just then, the officer re-entered. Behind him were my father, pale and haggard, and Willow, face frozen in shock. My dad looked dazed, completely out of it, but when he saw my stepmother wrapped in another man's arms, well, what else needed to be said? But before he could open his mouth, my stepmother completely lost it. She pointed at him and screamed, "Just look at the kind of son you raised." Chapter 18. My dad gritted his teeth and turned to me first, asking with concern, "Are you all right?" I shook my head. Before I could speak, my stepmother cut in. "That little bastard is obviously fine," she snapped. "I'm the one who got hurt here. I've worked so hard to raise him, and what does he do? He lays his hands on me. At such a young age, already rotten to the core, he followed me, tricked the hotel, dragged in all our relatives. How twisted can someone's heart be?" As she went on, her voice began to choke with emotion. She sobbed, "Officer, he assaulted someone in public. You have to punish him severely." I ignored her, rolled my eyes, and turned to the police. "I'd like to file a report," I said. "She's engaged in prostitution." My stepmother looked utterly dumbfounded. "What nonsense are you spouting?" she shrieked. "I'm a decent woman. How could I possibly do something like that?" "Officer, don't listen to him." I let out a dry "oh" and stared at the men beside her. So, if it wasn't prostitution, then what? Coercion. The man's face twisted with anger. He straightened up and shot back. "We can check the hotel security footage." She came into the room willingly. Willow suddenly chimed in. Just because she entered the room willingly doesn't mean she gave consent. My stepmother was speechless. Of course, she couldn't accuse the men of forcing her. So with a flushed face, she quickly said, "I did give consent." I nodded and pressed further. "So you consented, meaning, you two are in a relationship?" Again, silence. She was trapped. If she said yes, it was cheating. If she said no, then it was illegal. I gave her no time to think. I went straight on. Not dating, not married, but voluntarily sleeping together in a hotel room. If that's not prostitution, then what is? Cheating on your husband and doing something so disgraceful in public. Even if I laid hands on you, I was doing the world a favor, delivering justice, cleaning up society. No matter how you looked at it, I had the upper hand. My stepmother's face turned pale and flushed all at once. Willow frowned and lashed out. George, you and your dad are just ungrateful wolves. My mom gave you a place to live and food to eat. And this is how you repay us. That line made my dad's hands tremble from anger. He clenched his jaw and said, "What? Was the food I cooked not good enough? Ever since I married your mom, has she cooked even once? What more do you want from me? Every penny I earned, I handed over to her. I never once wronged the two of you. If anything, it's you who." I couldn't stand to hear another second of his sentimental crap. I cut him off with a wave and said to Willow, "You say my dad and I are ungrateful wolves. Then what about you and your mom? Raised by someone who sleeps around for money. Which one of us should be more ashamed? Really? You. Willow and her mom were red with fury. The police finally had enough. That's enough. Everyone cooperate with the investigation. I stood tall and calm. Gladly, I said. I'll cooperate however you need. Chapter 19. It was already late at night when we finished giving our statements and stepped out of the police station. The cold wind hit us and sobered everyone up. My stepmother clung to that man, Bubba, and gave my dad a look full of disdain. At this point, there was no pretense left. We were officially at war. Holding onto Bubba's arm, Lou looked at my dad with disgust and said, "We're getting divorced tomorrow. I can't live with you another day. And once it's done, move out of my house immediately." Then they stormed off angrily. Before leaving, Willow threw me a sidelong glance and scoffed. "Serves you right now that you're divorced. You don't even have a place to live. You two are like stray dogs now. Go wander the streets." My dad sighed but didn't say a word. But thankfully, although he had loved Lou deeply before, after everything that happened, he was finally starting to wake up. In the taxi, he patted me on the shoulder as if to comfort me. His eyes gradually grew clear as he spoke. "I used to think that if I poured my heart into a woman, she'd stay loyal and true. But now I see that was just wishful thinking. I also believed that being responsible, submissive, obedient, and letting her yell or hit me was what made a good man. But looking back now, those so-called values, those moral standards tailored only for men, they just turn you into a cheap, disposable tool." I scratched my head and muttered, "Well, however you want to understand it is fine. You are my dad after all." He nodded. "We'll definitely get divorced, and I'll fight to get my money back too, but all that takes time. We don't have a place in the city. So for now, you'll have to rough it out in the dorms with me." I curled my lips into a smile and said, "That's not roughing it at all." Then I turned to the driver. "Mister, take us to Violet Garden, please." Chapter 20. Outside Unit 601 at Violet Garden, the agent was energetically directing movers as they carried in the new furniture I had ordered. As soon as my dad and I appeared, the agent came up warmly. "Mr. Wong, you're here. Take a look, everything's arrived. Is there anything else you'd like us to add?" Before he could finish, my dad's face morphed into a giant question mark. I pulled him inside excitedly. "Dad, from now on, we're living here." He stared at me in disbelief. "You bought this place?" I nodded. He asked, "Where did you get the money?" So I told him the full story, how I had sold my morals. After hearing it, his expression turned complicated. He looked me up and down. "You're not hurt or anything, right?" he asked. I almost laughed. Would I be? "I'm fine." He still looked like he was in a dream. "This isn't a small sum of money," he said. "Are you sure it's legit? There's no catch?" I replied. "That's exactly why I bought a house. The deed has my name on it. Even if he tries to come asking for money, he won't get it easily. And now that we've bought it, we're staying here. We'll deal with everything else later." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "All right, soon." The excitement of having a new home overtook all his worries. He didn't bring up the moral compromise again. The next day was Saturday. I went with my dad to finalize the divorce with Lou. Maybe she was happy to have landed another sugar daddy. Or maybe she was afraid that if we took it to court, it'd cost her more. Either way, she gave my dad back the bank card, but she stood there, right at the edge of moral high ground, and said, "If you ever loved me, how could you take back something you gave away? Think it through. If you take that card, I will never give you another chance to come back to me." Chapter 21. After their marriage, even though they lived in my stepmother's house, a lot of the furniture and appliances had been bought by my dad. So, sticking to the principle of not leaving a single penny behind, I packed everything, even the toilet. Oh, and also that half bottle of toilet cleaner in the bathroom. Since it was, well, a special item, I didn't pack it with the rest. Instead, I casually hooked it onto my finger, but just as I reached the door, I heard my stepmother shamelessly running her mouth again. My dad's face flushed red, veins bulging in his neck as he was about to explode on her, and in the next second, I burst out of the house and shouted, "Dad, step aside." Startled, he instinctively took a few steps back. My stepmother heard the commotion, turned around with a frown, and was just about to scold me. Splash! Half a bottle of toilet cleaner came pouring down from the sky, drenching her completely. Right then, I whipped out the toilet brush, poked her with it, and yelled, "Smells like straight up shit. Here, let me clean that for you." My stepmother froze, and that's when she finally snapped. She couldn't take it anymore. Using the fastest speed of her entire life, she rushed off with my dad to get the divorce papers signed. Mission accomplished, and her parting gift. She got so furious she ended up in the hospital. Later, as the cold wind blew through the streets, my dad looked at me and asked, "So, where do we go now?" I replied, "Hot pot. A day this good has to be celebrated properly." 30 minutes later, as Willow and her besties walked into a hot pot restaurant, chatting and giggling, they were greeted by the scene of me and my dad, feasting like kings with our bellies wide open. Chapter 22. Willow froze in her tracks, staring at us in disbelief. My dad saw her too. He even gave her a little wave, but Willow raised her chin and walked right past us like we were invisible. Unfortunately for her, while she might have ignored us, her friends didn't. One of them, with a snide tone, said, "Willow, hey, George's dad just waved at you." Another chimed in, "Oh wow, his dad knows Willow. Guess George talks about her at home all the time." A third girl giggled into her hand. "Damn, Willow totally ignores him but he just keeps simping. Now the whole family knows her. Is he trying to propose or something?" Too bad the joke backfired. Bad timing. Willow's face turned darker and darker. Then, as if nothing was wrong, my dad looked at her and said, "Even though I divorced your mom and have no right to tell you what to do, she is in the hospital right now. Shouldn't you go check on her?" Willow sprang up like she sat on a hot stove. Her expression screamed, "Oh no." Turns out, she couldn't hide our relationship anymore. The girls around her were visibly stunned. "I'm sorry, what did I just hear? George's dad and Willow's mom. Wait, are they actually what I'm thinking?" Willow didn't have time to explain. She rushed over in a few quick steps, stared straight at me, and demanded, "What did you do to my mom?" I dipped a slice of beef tripe into the pot, took a bite, and said, "Who knows? She got poked a couple times and ended up in the hospital. If you want to visit her, better hurry, she might just heal herself in a minute." Willow bit her lip and snapped, "Poked? What do you mean by that?" I looked at her with a complicated expression, then slowly pulled out the toilet brush beside me, waving it slightly. I asked, "This, wanna try it out?" Willow refused to give it a try. Chapter 23. Willow stormed off in a rage. The next time I saw her was Monday, the first day of school. By then, the fact that we were siblings was no longer a secret. The classmates who used to glare at me with pure hostility now looked at me with complicated, even flattering, expressions. Someone whispered, "So all that time George was giving Willow gifts, it was under his family's orders." Another added, "We totally misunderstood him, but why didn't Willow ever explain?" Someone else chimed in, "Who knows? Maybe she just enjoyed having a simp chasing after her." One more voice replied, "I knew it. With George's looks and background, there's no way he'd be a simp." "Oh please, that's not what you said last time." The conversation bounced back and forth, but the gossip didn't stop there. News of my dad divorcing her mom spread like wildfire. The looks we got in class went from judgmental to sympathetic to awkward curiosity, all in a matter of days. But we didn't have time to respond, because my stepmother really was sick. Her health had never been good to begin with. This time, after I pissed her off, she ended up in the hospital for a full week. And as for the sugar daddy she clung to, he fled the city the very next night after she was admitted. Maybe it was the cold reality of being discarded. Or maybe she was just lonely and miserable. Either way, she suddenly began reminiscing about how good my dad had been to her. So, the first thing she did after being discharged was show up and play the victim in front of him. Chapter 24. My dad had completely transformed. You could even say he was overcorrecting. Every day, he buried himself in books by Warren Farrell, refused to pick up any calls from my stepmother, and the moment a woman's voice came through the line, he blocked the number. She pestered him like this for nearly a month. Then finally, she caught us during the end-of-term parent-teacher conference, blocked us both right at the school gate. Looking all sincere, she turned to me and my dad and said, "I only now realize, you were the one who truly treated me the best. Let's get back together. Okay, let's live properly this time." My dad, standing by the curb trying to hail a cab, brushed past her and said, Excuse me, please move. Her voice cracked as she pleaded. You're making, what? Over 10 grand a month. You're probably still renting, right? All those times I said you were a freeloader, I was just angry. You know how emotional I get. I never meant it like that. I never minded you living in my place, as long as you're willing to hand over your salary. We can pretend none of it ever happened. How about that? My dad replied. Of course you never minded exploiting men to financially support women. As for being a freeloader, yeah, so what if I was? That whole narrative that men have to act like men by being the sole provider doesn't work on me anymore. I don't mind being a freeloader, but only if I'm actually getting something out of it. My stepmother stared at him, confused. Then she turned to me as our cab pulled up and grabbed my sleeve. George, talk some sense into your dad. With your current living conditions, how are you going to focus on your studies? Expressionless. I shut the door, but she wasn't done. She flagged a cab of her own and followed us. The two cars weaved through the traffic and finally pulled up in front of Violet Garden. She caught up, eyes wide. What are you doing here? I walked through the entrance and said calmly. Going home. Of course. Her voice went sharp. You live here? I answered. Yes. Her face twisted in disbelief. That's impossible. Your dad only makes $14,000 a month. There's no way you can afford Violet Garden. You're faking it. You're putting on a show just to save face. She was cracking. I lifted my access card and scanned in. The gate opened. I stepped through slowly. And just before the gate shut behind me, I turned around and gave her a mocking smile. Her eyes turned red with fury. I walked a few more steps, then paused and looked back again. Oh right, almost forgot. The doctor told you not to get too emotional, right? Still, there's something I should remind you. Her facade dropped completely. She glared at me and growled. What? I lifted my phone and waved it at her. If you can, maybe stay off the internet. My stepmother was never truly sorry. She just wanted to keep lording over us, treating me and my dad like obedient dogs who'd come and go at her command. But what's more infuriating than seeing someone you once looked down on, living better than you ever imagined? If anything is worse than that, it's this. The video of her getting caught cheating. I posted it online, and it went viral. Chapter 25. The backlash came like a tidal wave. Fake photos. Doxing. That was the mild part. Her scandal was even picked up by official news outlets. She was publicly condemned for her behavior. And just like that, even her relatives, who barely ever touched the internet, found out about her disgrace. Her elderly mother, a fierce old woman with one foot already in the grave, came all the way from the countryside to the city, pointed a bony finger in her face, and roared, I don't have a daughter as shameless as you. Well, congrats. Now she's practically an orphan. Then came her job, the one she had only just landed. She was fired immediately, so fast, it was almost impressive. At this point, even eating became a problem. She was so furious. She landed back in the hospital, but even lying there, whenever she was awake, she could still hear the whispers from the nurses outside her room. That's her, the woman who cheated and prostituted herself. Ugh, so gross. I don't even want to go in and check her vitals. Another nurse replied. Trashiest of the trash. Next time I give her an injection, I'm making sure she feels it. Chapter 26. As things spiraled further, Willow finally cracked. She came to find me. At first, she was relatively calm. She begged me to make a public statement and clear things up. I stared at her and said flatly, clarify. You want me to lie in front of the entire country? Willow pressed her lips together. George, she was your mother once. Can't you let it go, just for that? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, I said casually. Nope. Willow's chest heaved violently. Her patience ran out. She jabbed a finger at me and shouted. George, if you drive her to death with anger, people will judge you morally too. Can your conscience really live with that? I stared at her, smirked, and said slowly, morally. I raised a brow and let out a low chuckle. You might not believe this, but I sold my morals. Willow froze, utterly confused. She clearly didn't believe me, probably thought I was just being sarcastic. Frustrated, she cursed me again. Jinx, then turned and stormed off. The next day, Willow's attempt to guilt-trip me and shame me online backfired. That video went viral too, and just like that, the person shouldering public outrage went from 1 to 2. 2 days later, they both left the city. Even their withdrawal paperwork was done behind my back, like I was some kind of plague they were terrified to touch. For a long time after that, I was the nightmare that haunted them both. That's when I finally understood, the only way to deal with shameless people is to abandon morality and out-trash them at their own game.